Hey everyone, welcome to the first episode of what I'm going to call the Diary of a Business Owner. That name is subject to change, but that's what we'll roll with for now. The point of this potential series, I think I'd like to do more of these episodes, but it's a way to kind of go through some of the things I'm going through and talk about different ideas with my new sort of venture of owning a business. I recently took down a business down here in Houston, Texas. I bought an existing business and I want to use this as an opportunity, a sort of forum for discussion, I guess, talking about business ownership, strategy with running the business, and potential things I might be going through in the preceding weeks, or I should say in the coming weeks, and also things I might have gone through in the preceding weeks and kind of what I maybe have learned there. So everything about business and business ownership and strategy and all that good stuff should be all wrapped up in here. And I am calling it a diary, so it'll be sort of a way to document my history with the business and also my thought process with it. I don't think this will be the last business I'm a part of, but it'll definitely be the first one, or at least the first major one, outside of my little side hustles I've had up to this point. If you count the media business, hasn't really made a ton of money, but I do put a bunch of time towards it. But anyways, I should probably set the scene a bit. Why am I even doing this series at all? Sure, yeah, I could talk about business and all that, but what business are we talking about? Well, I recently closed just last week, just finished my first week of ownership of a steam and carpet cleaning business here in Houston. I bought an existing business for $172,000 or so, plus some fees and all that good stuff. It wasn't too much beyond that, but anyways, we'll call it $180,000 if you round up the fees. So $180,000 for an existing business doing about $300,000 per year top line in revenue, which comes out to about $70,000 per year in cash flow. Again, it's in the cleaning niche, a steam and carpet cleaning business. I'll get more to the details on the exact business in a second, but I kind of want to go through the process of how I even got to buying a business in the first place, because it's something that I really only recently learned about. I have been interested in investing in general for quite some time. At least my adult life, I've been very interested in it. I kind of started in the real estate path, and that was what I was really dead set on doing. And I do own a few properties. It was the very first things I really invested in, besides a few stocks here and there. But first major investments were into real estate, and that still makes up the majority of my portfolio. But I kind of was looking for alternatives as I've continued to grow as an investor and ideally as a business mind, I guess, if you want to call it that. I currently work as a day job as an attorney in commercial real estate. Again, it was with kind of the goal of improving my real estate investing career, but I really have pivoted over the last, I'd call it year, where I've really tried to focus a lot more on cash flow versus maybe appreciation, capital appreciation. Granted, those are still good things, but I really want to focus more on what I call offense rather than defense. Defense might be something like investing in real estate or stocks, where you are able to grow your capital maybe at a good amount per year. We'll call it, I don't know, 5 to 15% in the case of a really good deal, not including forced appreciation through like flipping, that sort of thing. But just if you're buying and holding for the long term, you're probably going to expect something like that, between 5 and 15%, whatever it is, if it's a great investment, if it's a safer investment. You're not going to see many multiple times your money for quite some time in most cases. So I consider it more of defense. They're often very tax efficient strategies. So again, if you're trying to preserve wealth, they can be a really great tool. And it's not to say that they're not a great tool outside of that as well. But I want to focus more again on offense, driving new cash flow, maybe doubling or tripling my income, because I'm coming from a pretty small base compared to some bigwig billionaire who already has a huge portfolio, where a 15% move in his portfolio does make a huge difference. It's a lot of money. A 15% move in my portfolio, it wouldn't really move the needle for the long term. Yeah, it'd be nice, but I think you see where I'm getting at. I really wanted to focus on cash flow. So how do you do that? One way that I've really gotten into lately was looking at businesses that have existing cash flow. So that was a big avenue, and there's actually quite a few opportunities out there to buy an existing business that has existing clients, existing customers, existing reviews, a whole brand, operations that may be great or maybe need lots of improvement. Either way, you're buying something that is already there, that has already made its presence known, at least if you find a decent one. And that saves you a lot of time if you were just going to start your own business. Granted, there's still a lot of responsibility with it, but the point is it's already existing, so you kind of get to cut in line a bit. You have to pay for it, so because you're actually buying the business in the first place. But as someone who is already investing in stocks and real estate, in public stocks, I should say, it's really not that much of a stretch. It's a lot of the same fundamentals. It's a lot of the same sort of analytics and the same kinds of numbers. So that was it was a natural sort of extension of what I was already doing. But there is a lot more effort involved once you do actually close on the business. But that was kind of the initial motivation. Quick note here: I am doing this on Wi-Fi, so if there are any cutouts for those of you watching live, please let me know. Maybe I could lower the video quality. And also, while I have your attention on that point, be sure to drop some questions in the chat or comments, and I can address them. I see some folks already in here. They say that they like this idea of this diary of a business owner concept. So appreciate that, and thank you for stopping by. So anyways, if you have questions as we get later, please let me know. Also, if you want to leave comments for future videos as well, or future shows, I might make this a podcast as well, but we'll see. Very new concept. So where was I? Talking about cash flow is kind of the big reason I was looking for it. And maybe kind of going through the actual process of buying a business in the first place, because it was quite a process. I've been looking for the past, we'll call it 6 months in earnest, especially the last 4 months since I've moved to Houston. I moved back in end of August is when I moved in. Right now it's mid January. So I was looking, where do you even start to look for a business? I actually see some comments here. Quant Compounder appreciate it. Says, would be interested to know where you're looking for such businesses? That's a good question. It's kind of surprising how they're relatively easy to find. I thought it might be this like sort of totally off-market thing, but there are plenty of public business listings for private businesses. Like they're publicly listed, sort of like a piece of real estate. It's a private asset, but it's publicly listed. So the big source that I used at first was called Biz Buy Sell. That is a subsidiary of LoopNet, or it's owned by the same company that owns LoopNet. It's another huge listing platform that's for commercial real estate. So Biz Buy Sell was actually a very great resource for looking at all sorts of different listings. And then there are also local brokerages as well. So that's where you kind of can start your search potentially. And then, of course, if you know people who own businesses, you could always ask if they're wanting to sell if you're interested in one. So that's always an option too. So that's one place to start looking. But then it's really more about narrowing the search because there's so many niches out there. I looked at lots of different types of businesses, some in person, many on paper. You're talking about, restaurant franchises, ice cream shops. I looked at a glass blowing business as well, and a bunch of others, HVAC, roofing, just all sorts of different businesses out there. And then, of course, I ended up with this carpet cleaning business. I ended up narrowing my search towards a cleaning niche because I wanted something that was simple enough to understand as a newbie in the industry. I've never owned or run a cleaning operation before, but it's a simple enough product to understand. I think everyone understands what it looks like to clean something. Yes, there's more heavy machinery with carpet cleaning in particular, but it's not that complicated compared to some other industries. So it's nothing that can't be learned pretty quickly compared to others. So that was a big reason I wanted to do something like that, a simple service business, one that has the only real marginal cost is the labor, and you have some equipment up front, but it's not like you're actually selling a product and have to worry about returns and all that kind of stuff. So I did want a service business. In that way, it's also quite scalable as long as you are in an appropriate market for it. In this case, it's a very generalized product, carpet cleaning, anyone with carpets or tile with grout lines, that is a potential customer right there just for that particular product. And of course, you can add more products later like power washing and window washing, that sort of things that might go together with it. But narrowing the niche was definitely a big step in the process. So it took me a while to kind of decide, okay, I should probably go around the cleaning niche. I looked at it some pool routes as well, like pool servicing, for the same reason. It's simple enough. And here in Houston, there's tons of pools, so you have a lot of demand in that area. So maybe I'll land a pool business at some point in the near future or even far future, but one step at a time. So narrowed it down to a cleaning business, looking for cash flow, of course, the whole time, looking to see that the numbers made sense, ask for more financials if something looked interesting, and trying to figure out whether something was worth actually pursuing, sitting down with the seller or talking more with the broker and that sort of thing, because you want to make sure you are actually getting what you think you're getting. You're never going to know 100% until after you close, but you can at least address or address any potential red flags with a pretty solid due diligence process. And I did get some of that from just buying real estate in the past. It's kind of similar. You bring out your inspectors if you need to. You ask for whatever details that you need. It is a little bit different than real estate in that I guess there's more that you could hide. With real estate, it's a real thing, so you can do a lot of searching, but you have to make sure that you somehow verify the financials as much as you can. Get things in writing, of course, and if something doesn't add up, ask why it doesn't add up. And if you don't get a good answer, then it's probably time to move on or figure something else. So figure something else out. So I inquired on a bunch of businesses. I guess one thing I should kind of back up on is why do a private business rather than a public business? Because there are public businesses that sell at low multiples and cash flow well. Well, I kind of put the answer in the question there. Private businesses tend to sell very cheaply compared to public businesses. In that maybe a solid, pretty cheap public company might sell for 10 times free cash flow in many cases, often much higher, 20 or even 30 times for some of these great businesses out there. And even higher in the case of maybe bubble-ish or very growthy companies that need a lot of things to go right. Private businesses tend to sell at much lower multiples. We're talking 1 to 2 times free cash flow in many cases. And I got this business for about 2 point something times free cash flow, the $70,000 in cash flow and $172,000 purchase price. And that included about 60 to 60,000, we'll call it, maybe $70,000 worth of equipment, depending on how you account for it. So if you back out the equipment value, now I got it for well under 2 times free cash flow for just looking at the business value rather than the equipment. So something to keep in mind. That's kind of why private. It's cheaper, and there's potentially areas to really improve things and maybe more inefficiencies. The market is a bit more illiquid since you often need someone who's willing to take on the risk of running a business and has enough cash to do it. So you need someone who's like entrepreneurial, but doesn't necessarily have a ton of cash, like a VC fund that might be looking for a much larger private business in many cases, or one that has smoother operations. Because a lot of these small businesses, really, a lot of the times it's just one guy, maybe 2 guys who've run some business, maybe like a contractor business doing handiwork or whatever job it is. And now they want to retire, but they haven't really built out any systems. They just have kind of a book of clients. And that can be an interesting opportunity there if you can get it on the cheap and then run it yourself or hire someone right away. So there's plenty of opportunity out there. And then there are more systematized businesses already. I would definitely lump this business in there. It already had some really good systems going. The owner himself was pretty part-time, and managed to grow it to the level it's at now. So that was kind of a good sign that things were running pretty smoothly. And given the price, I thought it was an interesting opportunity, so I went for it. And then kind of during that process, you go through due diligence, you ask for all the financials, like I was saying. And then it's a question of funding the business. How do you actually buy this thing? How did I get the money for it? Some people will do something like an SBA loan where you actually can fund usually up to 90%. We'll call it 80 to 90% of the purchase price with an SBA loan from a bank. That's all subsidized by the government, much like a mortgage. And typically the terms range from 7 to 10 years. If you have real estate involved for the majority of the price, you can get up to a 25-year term on the loan. So it can be very powerful debt in that way. But I did not use SBA here since I was able to qualify for a bunch of personal loans to buy the business. And the reason I opted for that, even though the interest rate is a bit higher, I did a whole breakdown on my net worth series on the YouTube channel. But we'll call it terms ranging from about a 5-year term to up to a 7-year term, and interest rates ranging from something like 8% up to, I think my highest was 14%, but most were kind of closer to that 10% range right now, given where interest rates are at. So yeah, that's how I funded it. And the reason I did that, one of the big reasons, is it's much quicker. And I had the W-2 income to support taking out the debt quickly. And so instead of waiting 3 months or 3 to 4 months for an SBA loan, I just went with the personal loans. And the seller was not willing to do seller financing, which is probably the gold standard if you can land it, but it's really up to the seller. That's where they're actually financing it based on the purchase price, and then you're paying the seller over time. So that would have been nice, but in this case, we just used personal loans, which was fine. I'm going to be paying them back very aggressively over the next couple of years, using a combo of my salary and potentially cash flow from the business. Definitely using my salary for the meantime. I think I would want to reinvest more of the money back into the business if I can, but definitely want to get some room, get rid of some of this debt, deleverage a bit. It's definitely going to be a big focus of mine this year. So we've got so that's how I financed it. I asked a couple friends and family and connections, like, hey, would you be potentially interested in lending on this thing? I had some who were kind of interested, but given that my track record is not robust when it comes to business ownership, this is my first one. I think it probably makes sense to actually build up some more, build up more of a business rapport before I start asking individuals for money, and also just make sure I'm really on really solid footing before I do that. Maybe I'll never actually need to, but it kind of depends on where we're trying to go long term. But one step at a time. I think I said that earlier. One step at a time. So that's how I funded it, and then I ended up closing on it in January of 2023. So just a week ago on Friday. And I've owned it since then, and now we're in the middle of the transition. So we can kind of talk about that in a second. Luis, I appreciate the super chat here on YouTube very much. He says for the debt. Yes, that'll definitely go towards that, and probably go towards video fees in the meantime, or editing fees and whatever. If I end up putting this on a podcast platform, I might pay for something like that. So it'll go towards a good place, I think, is all I'm trying to say. But thank you, Luis, and thank you to all the folks who throw super chats on YouTube. It's a very amazing thing that you're all willing to pay for this sort of stuff. It's great. So just trying to share whatever I can and selfishly document it for myself as well, and document it for myself and others. It's a win-win, I think. You tell me. So, anyways, we ended up closing on this business. I think now it's a good time to talk about the strategy I'm looking to implement for the coming weeks, months, and years, and what we're doing with the business now. I guess looking back to the last week, my first week of business ownership, that was a big transition week. So getting all the systems transferred over, getting me access to everything, getting new insurance policies, make sure the business is insured. The 2 vans that I bought are insured as well, because in this purchase, there were two work vans fully equipped with carpet cleaning equipment. You could probably write them, you could probably value them at something like $30,000 a pop. They're pretty old vans, but it's really the equipment where a lot of the value is. And given where used car prices are, it's there's some pretty good value there too right now. We'll see what happens in the coming year, but we'll call it about $60,000 in equipment value that was built in. And right now, there are 2 full-time employees of the business. They came over with the business as well. I actually had the main employee sign the more senior technician who does carpet cleanings. There's 2 full-times to do that. And one of them sign an employment contract for 6 months, just to try and insulate myself a bit, just so if he wanted to walk during the first week, didn't want that to happen. So I tried to be a little bit careful there, try and make sure that he'd stay on the business with the business for at least a little while, and ideally for the long term. He does good work. The business has amazing reviews over the past few years, so he's been through it all. So he definitely does good work. I like him. He's a nice guy. So I'd like to keep this person on. So you have the 2 full-time employees, and then we have a part-time contractor that does like a janitorial account as well. It's a smaller account. Most of it is so it's split down between 80% residential and 20% commercial customers. And a lot of the commercial customers are they're usually subbing us out. So you'll have maybe a janitorial company or a maid company that comes in and cleans an office space or a house or whatever it is, but they don't want to do carpet cleanings. Maybe they do all sorts of other cleanings except for carpet cleaning. They don't have the equipment or specialty or whatever. So they actually sub us out to come in and just do that job. So that's actually a very consistent source of business. So that's really good to have. So that's kind of where 20% of the commercial comes in. There are also some apartment buildings, retirement home. There's actually a movie theater client that we have that gets regular cleanings. So, you'll land some larger clients like that, and it'd be nice to have more of those because they're big jobs and they're typically recurring as well. So the more recurring business, the better. And that's the gold standard in business, is when you can somehow get recurring revenue for the same service. So that would be ideal. And trying to tap into some of the former customers as well is something I want to be focusing on. I'll get to that in a second too. But kind of this last week, like I said, was a lot about transitioning, getting access to all the accounts. This business uses a software called House Call Pro, which I've really already come to like. It's really nice, at least for this sort of niche. With you can probably use it in a lot of niches, but certainly for cleaning, it's really solid. You can book clients, you can quote things out, you can schedule things, you can talk to your crew on there. It notifies your customer when they're on the way, when they started, when they finished. You can send invoices, processes payments. So it's a really nice software in that sense. It's kind of as close to an all-in-one as you're probably going to get without just building your own software. I don't have an affiliate link for it, at least yet, but House Call Pro is what it's called. And that's kind of the main software the business uses. One kind of immediate change I've made off the bat is the business actually had 2 payment processing software services, which was unnecessary because House Call Pro, like I just said, they do payment processing, and we use them for everything else too. So the more you can kind of keep in under one roof, the easier it will be to manage and see what's going on, rather than having this kind of third-party payment processing software on the other end that you really don't need or you're not going to use. So I've canceled that contract, and no need, or I should say I didn't bring that contract on, or I didn't renew it. It's a different business entity. I bought it with my own entity, so it's not like I took over the existing one. I just bought the business assets and the naming rights and all that stuff. So I didn't actually buy like the tax liabilities of the former business, if that makes sense. But that's immediate cost savings right there. It's a few $100s a month that I now don't have to spend because we already have something that can process payments that we should continue to try using more of in the future. So yeah, that's kind of that's one immediate sort of cost cut I've already done without really changing anything to the business. So just a nice thing to get rid of. If I end up deciding that House Call Pro is no good for payment processing, which so far it seems fine, then maybe I'll go try to get another payment processor. But kind of learning more about what I could improve and maybe where I should focus on in the future. Systems, like I said, are pretty good. One potential area to change long term. Short term, I think it's great to have, but long term, it probably wouldn't make a ton of sense. Is the business currently uses a call center service of sorts, where if a customer calls the business, it actually goes to this call center, and they're paid per minute. But it's a third-party business, all in the U.S. I know a lot of people use a lot of times Filipino workers to get that kind of like wage arbitrage, if you will. In this case, it is all U.S. based, and it's at a pretty affordable price, and it's kind of great for that business that's in the in-between stage, where it's big enough that it needs help with handling calls and customers, and that so in that case, it would make sense to keep it on, but it's probably too expensive if you were to be. I should say you're big enough to need help, but you're not too big to the point where you could actually just hire your own person direct. So that's really the spot I'm in. It's kind of in between. It's you're at $300,000 in revenue. That's significant business. You're going to need someone handling the phone at times, but it's not going off the hook. It's not like we're getting a phone call every 10 minutes. So where you have a full-time person there, or enough to justify having a full-time person in there. So it's pretty nice in that. I see a comment here. Yes, it did cross my mind. Jack's enemies are going to now call the business to jack up his call center costs. JK, yes, that is. I'm trying to be careful not to share the phone number quite yet, because that would make a material difference to the expenses of the business right now. Maybe once I'm mega huge, I'll be doing a national steam cleaning and carpet cleaning ads. Then I want my number out there, right? But for now, no. So. That is something that's really nice, and I'm going to keep that for the time being, and maybe even for the long term, as kind of like a maybe late night call center thing, because they have pretty late hours. So if you have a full-time office person in the day, or maybe they're already on the phone, and then you get another call, rather than have it go to voicemail, it goes to this call center that's very familiar with the business. You have a few people on this team that are just working on the business. So it's a nice service, and it makes sense for this specific niche. So I really like it. And I'm going to be using that for the time being, because I'm not exactly in a position to handle the phone all day, since I still do have my day job as an attorney. And I saw a question earlier about how many hours I am planning on spending on this business. right now it's definitely more than I don't know if it'll be more or less than it will be in the near future. Uh, but I probably I've spent probably a few hours a day on it over the last week, but a lot of that has been transitioning, hopping on the phone with vendors and introducing myself and getting that sort of stuff. A lot of the actual work and bookings and fulfillment is pretty automated, which is awesome. So it hasn't been too crazy, and it's not like it's been overwhelming, even still working a full-time job. Um, and it's fun. I'm enjoying that. It's just cool seeing all the pieces come together. I really like that. Coming in day one with cash flow, I mean that's pretty hard to beat, right? And you're coming into a really well run asset in this business, and I'm just kind of sliding in, and now it's just a matter of don't mess it up and try to improve it. But that's the fun part. That's the challenge. It's a puzzle of sorts. You're putting the pieces together and making sure things flow smoothly and as smoothly as they can without breaking things completely. So I really like that. So it's been about a few hours a day, I'd say, and I imagine it'll be that way in the future. The thing is, as a business owner, I can put however much time I want into it as long as I delegate things properly. But because I could throttle it up to a ton of hours to start doing sales, I could throttle it back to we'll focus on some other venture as long as I delegate things properly again. But it's kind of cool being able to put your time into something that actually has a lot more scalability than something like a typical W-2 job, where even if you double down on your efforts, you're not necessarily going to get paid double the amounts, or even many times that. In the case of a business with leverage and employees, and being able to really leverage your output that way. So I really like having kind of that scalable opportunity just built in. And plus, when you increase the business's income, you're also increasing the value of the business too. So you get equity as well as the income. So that's a huge bonus. Whereas with a W-2 job, even if you increase your income, you're not getting equity in the job. You're not somehow selling shares of yourself. You're not getting that bonus to your sort of inherent value, I guess, because you can't put a dollar value on humans, but you can on a business. So that's kind of a nice thing that's built in. I don't know how else I could put that, but you're able to grow equity in the actual business. So that's pretty nice. I actually just got a question. Do you see yourself quitting the day job if it makes sense from a cash flow point of view? You see Quant Compounder, you left that comment. I could never say, I'm never going to say I'm leaving my job because I'm still currently employed in my job. So that would be a foolish thing to say. But I'm always just trying to go in with an open mind. If it makes sense to stay on the job long term, then I'll stay on the job. If it doesn't, then I won't. So it's really just going for the best opportunities. Right now, that's definitely staying on the job, I think, because it pays well. It gives us a little bit of stability, or quite a bit of stability, and it allows me to achieve other goals, like buying this business, for example. I wouldn't have been able to buy it without, at least as easily, without being able to finance through the W-2 job. So that was pretty nice. And I don't want to lose that anytime soon. Plus, it's good work. It's as a commercial real estate attorney, I'm working with very sophisticated clients who are doing big deals, and you get a lot of perspective that way. And I've met some folks through it too. So I don't plan on leaving it at this point. But good question. It does beg the question. If I will say, just with anything, I'm always having an open mind. If it makes sense to leave, then I should leave. I shouldn't hesitate that much. And if it doesn't make sense, then I don't have to. So you have options. That's really all I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to buy options, and not like stock options, but like actual options and flexibility to do things financially. So, and financially and just in life in general, because money does buy a lot of opportunities. So. I forget where I was going there. It was a big transition week, and now kind of looking ahead, I did spend a lot of time over this last month interviewing people to bring on as a general manager, because I do want someone here pretty much full time, if not more than full time, running the operations and implementing strategy that maybe I come up with, maybe they come up with, maybe we both come up with. Ideally, we both come up with. So I've been working on trying to get someone hired for that, and I did end up hiring someone who will be starting this next week. So now I just got transitioned into the business. Now I'm going to be transitioning this general manager into the business, and then we'll kind of have two people focused on really growing this thing. And then we have our technicians who have capacity right now to to start getting them more work, and so they can make some more money too. So it's just a win-win-win all around. Start serving more people, getting more connections in the community, and improving their reputation. So that's been a very big development. I wanted that to be my first hire because I don't want to be the end all be all in my business, because if everything flows through me, I see that as a problem. I should say, if everything has to flow through me, that's a problem. That means I haven't delegated appropriately. I should be able to work on anything I want on the business so that I can put in the maximum impact on that thing. If all the operations are going smoothly, I don't really have to touch them at any time. I could just focus on getting more business, which is really what this business could use the most of right now, because the systems are pretty good. They're pretty good all around. They have plenty of capacity to take on more clients and more fulfillment, but it's just a matter of getting those clients. And there is an existing backlog of 6,000 people, over 6,000 people that have inquired or have actually gotten work through this business that I have access to, that I can reach out to. So that's a massive potential book of business right there. Someone maybe who hasn't gotten their carpet cleaned in two years, and be like, hey, I'm Jack, new ownership, or maybe it's my manager. Hey, I'm the manager of Trinity. And oops, I just said the name of the business, but yeah, I'm the manager, and now it's a matter of trying to get that. It's just a matter of trying to get that person back on who maybe has been off for a couple of years. So that's a big thing to potentially try to focus on in the next year. Trying to get some of those old customers back on and get people into the pipeline. So that's a big thing I'm trying to do. From there, the manager also will have flexibility, or they're going to be kind of wearing a bunch of hats at the start. And eventually it'll make sense to bring on like an office employee, someone, an admin, to maybe hop on the phones, whatever it is, to take care of that. So that'll be kind of a big thing later on, when it makes sense, when we have some more scale. Maybe hire another technician, get another van, just get a little bit more scale before you bring on someone full-time for the office. But the reason what I was going to say is I wanted to have a general manager on first, as the big like I wanted to get the top taken care of first before I started trying to hire more technicians or focus on kind of lower level fulfillment. I wanted to focus on the high level team building aspects first, because everything kind of flows down from there. If I can get someone who's a great operator, I now have capacity to bring on a team, and they can kind of they can help build that team a lot more effectively than if I was working alone part-time on this business. I want someone who's able to focus full-time on it and can help me build that team, build the culture, build my fulfillment out more, and all the things that you need for a business. So I wanted to get a top level guy first. And the way I'm doing this is I'm actually having a revenue split implemented, to where I'm having the manager take a revenue split of the from the business, and that's how they're being paid. So in that way, they're incentivized to try and grow the business. So that's a big reason I'm doing that, because I didn't want to give up equity off the bat, but I want them to be incentivized to grow the business like an owner might. And yes, there are flaws to revenue split, a profit split. I went with revenue just because it's simple enough. And if things are not being profitable, then that'll be up to me to address, and I'll make sure I make that clear to the manager. And we're pretty well aligned based on our conversations. We'll see how it goes in the coming months, but yeah, that's how I'm doing that. And I've talked to some other folks who run businesses who do that. They do revenue splits or similar sorts of things with their kind of top guys. And maybe long term, it makes sense to give up some equity to potential higher level employees. But at the moment, I think this will work really well, and give that manager a real incentive to grow the business, and like an owner might. So that's kind of what I'm doing there. Luis asks, if Buffett offered to buy your business, would you be interested? Well, I'd be interested at some price, but I don't know why Buffett would bother with something under 200 grand. He's got a lot more money to move than that. I did get a good question here from not Luis, but Lewis Evans. How have the two employees reacted to a new boss in town in such a small biz, assuming they knew the previous owner well? Yes, they did. They've been really nice. They're good workers. They're cordial, they're polite. I've talked with them a few times already. They just want to do good work. They take pride in it, and I don't know if that's a Houstonian thing, but I've really noticed that not that other places don't take pride in their work, but I've really noticed that a lot of people, especially in these smaller businesses, they're just trying to make an honest living, and that's what they're trying to do. And since I'm keeping all the systems pretty much the same, it really hasn't been much of an adjustment. But they've reacted very, very well to it. So that was something I was worried about before I knew them. But they're really nice guys, and I'm looking forward to working with them more. So things have been pretty good. But yeah, that is a valid question. Other businesses might be very different, but this one seems very smooth so far. And yeah, so no complaints there. But yes, it is something to keep in mind. So I'm looking at some of these comments here, but yeah, keep them coming. I appreciate it. Probably stay on for another maybe 15 more minutes from here. But yeah, so looking ahead, I was kind of getting at going through the old sales lit or going through the old customers. I think that's something to do moving forward. Once I get everything transitioned, once I get all the systems transitioned, I'm very close to getting there. And maybe once I smooth out a few things, organize a few things just to my liking, then it'll probably make sense to do a pretty intense sales outreach effort. Right now, we spend about $1,500 per month on Google ads and Facebook retargeting ads. And there's some other ads mixed in there too, but those are the two biggies, and especially Google ads being the big one. And that drives the vast majority of the business. And then you have the recurring sources as well. But I want to kind of get more of those recurring sources going by maybe tapping into some old customers. And that's that I think will be of this kind of first stage, this first, we'll call it year or two. I think sales and just demand are going to be the biggest focus, or that's going to be the biggest focus in that time, because it's a small enough business. There's plenty of room to grow. It's not like we're saturating the Houston market, which is huge, in anything. And you can always add more services as well. So that's kind of what I'm looking to do. At least that's what I think the large scale strategic focus is going to be. It's going to be on sales and driving growth that way, and driving growth through more demand. And then maybe later on down the line, as the business kind of matures to some point, you can maybe focus a bit more on operations again, because then a 5 or 10% improvement on operations would be a large number. Kind of like that whole defense versus offense thing I was talking about before. Just within the business it applies to. I think it does make sense to focus on offense, driving new sales, new demand, maybe upping ad spend, creating some new ad campaigns. I think this business could really benefit from some actual video, new video like creatives for ads. So I'll probably be doing some of that. But that I think will be the big focus, more so than operations. But of course, operations is going to be very important. That's why I'm bringing someone on to help with that. But they're going to be helping with sales as well. So and maybe at some point we'll have our own sales department of sorts, or maybe hire some sales folks for the summer. Whether it be door knocking, popping on the phone. But we got, like I said, 6,000 folks on the email list, and a lot of them we have phone numbers too. I think just about all of them we have phone numbers too. So that's a lot of people to call in the meantime, and that's very warm leads, and that they've either used the service before or they've inquired about it. So it should be able to shake a good amount of business out of the existing list, which is a big thing that I bought. I was buying a customer list, a customer revenue stream, and all the reputation that came with the business. So it was a big part of it. Got a question from Luis again. Does steam cleaning have a busy and slow season? Yes, as far as I can tell, we are in the slow season, because a lot of people, I guess, get their cleaning done up to and immediately after the holidays, but especially up to the holidays, because they're having a bunch of people come over. Maybe you want to get your furniture cleaned. That's another thing I should emphasize. That's part of the steam cleaning part of the business. It's furniture as well. So, you want to get everything cleaned up, spruced up for the holidays. And then also spring cleaning apparently is a real thing. I was talking about some of the historical financials of the business, and they have a big spring normally, because I guess spring cleaning actually happens. So springtime tends to be pretty good too, and through the summer. But we're kind of in the slow season, kind of January to March apparently is historically pretty slow. But there's consistent business. We had quite a few jobs just in this last week. My first week was already not completely booked out, but there were jobs every day. So that's good. Yeah, I just want to keep the guys busy as much as possible. Even if it means, and frankly, even if it means that I'm not making a huge profit on a job, if it means I can keep the guys busy versus having them do nothing at all, I'd rather do that. That way they're happier because they're making money, and they're setting a nice precedent with potential new customers as well. So that's something to keep in mind for those kind of slower seasons, or at least something I'm keeping in mind. Don't be afraid to maybe take a little bit off the top if it means that you can keep your crew busy, keep them happy, and also make some customers happy in the meantime. Almost like a marketing expense, if you will, just to kind of keep everything running smoothly. So yeah, there is a slow season, but it's not all that terrible compared to maybe some other businesses that maybe like a retail, like selling a retail product or a consumer retail product that might completely rely on November to December for the holiday shopping season or something like that. It's pretty spread out through the year, which is nice. And one thing I am considering, I'll just throw it out there because this is kind of part of the show, is I want to consider maybe creating like a membership kind of program where you have someone pay like a monthly fee that comes out to basically the value of a carpet cleaning or whatever it is, and then they're given one carpet cleaning per year or something like that. And that way you actually have recurring income every year, so it kind of smooths out that income curve even more. And also you don't have to keep asking people for more business. They're just kind of on it. It's a subscription model. I wonder how well that would work for something like this. I've seen it work with like a company I used back in Chicago for HVAC servicing. They have like a monthly like a membership thing, and with that you get 2 free checkups on your. Well, it's not free; you're paying for it via the membership, but you get 2 checkups built into that price to look at your HVAC systems, and then they do basic maintenance and stuff like that. I thought that was an interesting model because it could be a nice way to create actual recurring revenue out of something that technically isn't a recurring product. You are supposed to get your carpets and everything cleaned probably once a year. And then, of course, if you have, same with your furniture, you should get that cleaned periodically as well. But if you can actually build that in to where you don't have to keep calling, hey, it's time to clean your carpets again. You need service. But if you can just have it like, hey, your membership says you're due for your cleaning. When should we come? It's not even like a yes or no at that point because they've already bought it. So if you can kind of remove some of that friction, I think that could be potentially pretty lucrative. It's something I'll consider for the future. You'd have to make sure you implement the scheduling well, because you can't have everyone want to get their cleaning, cash in on their cleaning at the same time. So you'd have to limit it in some way. But it's just food for thought. It's something I've thought of, and I think would be interesting just to try and create some more recurring revenue sources within the business doing the same sort of work. And then another potential avenue for growth that I don't think makes sense yet, but I'd be adding ancillary services like power washing and window cleaning and stuff like that. I think power washing would be a pretty easy one to add because you may get a power washer and someone who at least sort of knows what they're doing, and you can do a lot of work, especially on pavement with siding and like actual on the house. That can be a little bit more technical, and maybe you're using a chemical wash. But anyways, I'm no expert on power washing, but that could be something to add in the future as well. And then you make it like more of a home services brand rather than just carpet and steam cleaning. So that is something to consider. And yes, I see that the recurring model could work for maybe some of the commercial clients, and they kind of are on like a recurring model where we come out every quarter or something like that. But it's a minority of the business. I'm really talking more on the volume side of things with residential clients, just having it to where they don't even think about, oh, who was my carpet cleaning person again? I forget. Let me Google it, and then maybe we lose the business. That would suck. So if you can actually just build them in right away, and you're reminding them like, hey, guess what? You already paid for this cleaning. When can we come out and give it to you? and that would be great. Just an idea, potential strategy to roll with. All right, I'll be on for a couple more minutes now before I got to get going. Any further questions there, please let me know. I appreciate all of the comments and well wishes as well. Appreciate that. I got a question. What business is it? It's carpet and steam cleaning. For those of you late to the show, it's carpet and steam cleaning business in Houston. So that's it's a lot of fun just coming into a business that's already working, and has like actual history up and running. So I definitely recommend, if you're at all interested in business, take a look at some existing ones. You could probably, if you find a great deal, you could probably find the money for it. And if you're really wanting to do it, you do have to want to do it because there's effort involved. And ideally, you got to know a little bit about what you're doing or what you're looking at least. So don't rush into it, but do look into it, because there are some potentially really cool opportunities out there. A lot of interesting businesses that you wouldn't realize make quite a bit of money. Like it's a carpet cleaning operation with 2 full-time employees pulling in 300 grand a year. Like, I wouldn't have expected that. That's kind of cool. So, so yeah, I got a couple questions here. I think we'll wrap up with these. What was the due diligence process like for looking at the competitive landscape pre-purchase? Good question. So the cool thing about having an existing business is you get to see their actual business history. So you're not guessing as much with how much money they'll probably bring in. And this business has been operating for a few years. I can't say I did a huge competitive analysis on all of the competition in the area. I did look pretty closely at reviews of similar businesses, and I mean this one's reviews are frankly tremendous. So that was a big advantage right there, at least within the area of Houston that it's in. It's not like downtown; it's in the suburbs, though it covers downtown as well in many cases. But that's one advantage of an existing business, is you can kind of see how it's dealt with competition in the past. Not to say you should just not ignore all competition, but with a lot of these kind of simple service businesses, there's competition everywhere. But the thing is, you're dealing with a lot of people who maybe don't really want to grow that much. They just kind of run their own thing. It's 1 or 2 guys, family members that are running a business, and that's kind of it. They make enough to get by, and they like that, and that's fine. That's fine. And then you got like bigger players, like in my case, like Stanley Steamer or something like that, that are giant companies doing the same kind of work. Yeah, it's worth looking into competition a bit, but I wouldn't get too hung up on it unless it's really obvious that the place is completely saturated. But I don't get that sense with something like this, and there's kind of new little operators at any given time, and so long as I think my final thought on that is that the pie is pretty big, and you don't need a extremely huge slice of it to make good money. So, yeah, it's and one thing that a lot of these guys actually help each other out, at least at the smaller end of the carpet cleaning and cleaning niches, where, hey, like I have a carpet cleaning business, or I have a carpet cleaning client I can't get to. Can you get to it so I don't take the reputation hit? So they actually work together quite a bit. I'm slated to meet up with a couple of them pretty soon, just kind of talk shop and all that. So yeah, anyways, friendly competition, I guess you could say. Chris asks, are you feeling stressed as a business owner and lawyer? There's a ton on your plate. I actually feel like I was more stressed before I bought the business, just because of trying to get to closing. It's a stressful process and kind of getting everything lined up. It's a lot of time. This feels fun. It's a lot of work for sure, but I've felt less stressed since closing, because I got the asset. I'm seeing it in action now. I'm almost at ease because there's less uncertainty. I see what's actually happening every day. I'm confident because, like, hey, I actually bought what I thought I was buying. But I actually bought what I thought I was buying for the most part. So that's really nice. So far, I have not uncovered any fraud, and if I do, I will let you know. But so far, so good. So that's been good. And the previous owner, I should have shouted him out earlier, but he's helped me with the transition over this last week, and will be helping me next week because he's contractually obligated to. But he's also a really nice guy, and he's clearly put the customer first in running his business over the last few years. So he's just a good guy and a good guy to talk to, and he's been really helpful. I have tons of questions. Hey, how's this done? What's this? What do I do in this case? Or what have you done in the past? And he's been really informative and helpful. And yeah, again, just a really nice guy. So that's helped a lot with getting me up to speed pretty quickly. And he did a nice job setting up the systems, like I said. So excited for the next step, which is bringing on that manager. That'll be the next big project. One other question, I think this is back to the recurring model. Why not do it like a dentist, where they ask if you want to schedule a cleaning for next year and give a discount if they schedule pay ahead? Just my thoughts. Yeah, that's a pretty good idea. I think that's very similar to kind of what I'm thinking of, like a subscription model, maybe not paying monthly, but literally just booking it. Yeah, I think that could make a lot of sense. One thing I would be kind of worried about, I assume dentist office deal with this all the time, where they're dealing with rescheduling all the time. So that could be maybe a little bit challenging in that you're locking in a date and then that person maybe cancels the date last second. So like trying to create maybe an incentive to not do that, because we actually have to go to the place. So you're planning out the day. It's not like they're coming to you in the office. We got to drive out and make sure that everything's, you're not doing jobs at the opposite end of the city in a day. So you might plan around a particular location. Though in principle, I do like at least parts of that idea. I wonder if you could do that, just book ahead, and if you actually make them pay at a discount, but that could be a little dicey. People like the monthly payment rather than paying for something full on and then not getting it for a while. Actually, just thinking of it now, the incentive might be if you move the date, you lose the discount or whatever it is. Yeah, okay, okay. I do like this idea. I might implement something like that. If I don't do something like a monthly thing. Again, this is more once we kind of get stabilized and start driving some more revenue. But I do think focusing on recurring would be really nice. But I do like that. So thank you, Michael, for that comment. I think we'll do last a couple last second comments. Luis says, ask competitors to clean your house and observe how they operate. I've definitely done that with hiring property managers, where I call them up pretending to be a tenant, and or I call the number that a tenant would call. I'm not pretending to be a tenant. I don't want to say that, but I call them and try to get a hold of anyone. And if they don't respond, then that's a bad sign. If I'm trying to hire that property manager for my own property, if they're not picking up their tenant phone, then they're not going to be helping very quickly, huh? So, or if they don't give me a call back, especially. So, anyways, yeah, that would be a funny move. What's the Google SEO situation looking like? SEO, not that great. There's not a lot of organic traffic. A lot of it is paid. So one thing I am considering as well is kind of dumping a bunch of blog articles into the site just to get some more organic content. It is a very targeted sort of thing where pay-per-click ads are going to be your bread and butter here, because someone will be like, cleaning service near me, and you want to pop up on that result as much as you can. And you can try to juice up that SEO score more with blog articles and boosting up the site. So it's the website and branding is pretty solid. There are some improvements that can be made, mainly in adding more content. Like I said before, video content for ads and maybe less, and also social media could be pretty nice too for more potential avenues for traffic. But yes, I will be focusing at least somewhat on getting that content up. As a content creator myself, be only appropriate. And final comment from Chris here. He says, great news. Great to hear the owner is so supportive. Good luck with the endeavor. I appreciate it, Chris. And I appreciate all of you for coming on to this first diary of a business owner. I don't know what else to call it. If we like that name, then I think we could stick with it. If not, we could always pivot. That's appropriate, right? That's a good business owners do. They pivot when they need to. But like I said, I appreciate all of you coming on. I'll try to do one of these maybe once a week. Don't want to promise, but something like once every week or once every other week, something like that. Just to kind of talk about what's going on, talk through ideas. I think a lot of episodes will be kind of up to the hour mark, but maybe some will be shorter. But just stuff I might be thinking about, and be a nice way to do it. I'm at the office right now, so I thought this could be a good place to do these streams. The office of the business, I should say, this little office that's part of the kind of garage back here. Maybe I could show you some other time, but it's been a nice start. I'm pretty happy about it, and I'm really excited to see where this goes in the coming months. So thank you, everyone. Like, comment, subscribe, share it if you know a business owner who might like to listen into these sorts of things, or someone who maybe is interested in business. Definitely share it. And if I do end up putting this in podcast form, then please leave a review on that too, because that could go a long way towards helping get some more reach. So I'd appreciate that. Otherwise, take care, everyone.